Think about how many times you've uncovered a major, unauthorized transaction during an audit. A procurement manager extends a massive credit line to a high-risk customer, or an operational team pushes through critical dispatches, all without securing the required signatures on the Delegation of Authority matrix. When we find these skipped workflows, the official diagnosis is almost always the same. We flag it as a non-compliance with the DOA, and we have to put a reason down on paper. Far too often, auditors fall back on boilerplate phrases that fit neatly into a template. We write down things like negligence by the process owner, inadequate training, or the most popular of all, lack of monitoring. But does lack of monitoring actually explain why a seasoned procurement manager bypassed the CFO? These vague root causes are easy to write, but they provide very little value to a business trying to secure its operations. To understand these failures, we must make a critical distinction. A failing technical guardrail is rarely the actual root cause. A hard block prevents risk, but its absence doesn't motivate an employee to sidestep procedures. One is a barrier, the other a choice. When we label missing system controls as a root cause, we are effectively ignoring the human element of the story. To find out why that choice was made, we have to change our lens. Finding the real driver behind bypassed approvals requires speaking directly to the process owner and applying the 5 whys. You need to ask, did they know the rule existed? If they did, why didn't they route this specific purchase order to the VP? What exactly happens to the business if they wait for that formal authorization? Has the approver habitually ignored these types of requests in the past? When you ask these questions, you strip away the technical error codes. You stop finding system glitches, and you start finding the deep cultural and operational frictions that drive how employees actually behave. The most common driver is operational friction. This is the collision between strict compliance requirements and critical business speed during an emergency. If a machine breaks down on the factory floor and a replacement part requires VP approval, but the VP takes 4 days to check the ERP portal, the team is forced to make a choice. They will choose business survival over strict compliance, and emergency workarounds become the standard operating procedure. This creates what we call the shadow DOA. In these situations, the authorization actually did happen. It just occurred completely outside the official ERP system. The operational team gets a thumbs up on WhatsApp, a verbal nod in a hallway, or a quick email from the CEO's phone. To them, the boss approved it, so the transaction is valid. But when the auditor looks at the system, they only see a skipped workflow and record a deviation. These workarounds are not negligence. They are a direct disconnect between how the business truly communicates in reality and what the software mandates on paper. A company goes through a reorganization, but IT hasn't updated the reporting lines in the ERP. The software asks an employee to send an approval to a director who is no longer in their vertical. Instead of waiting weeks for a help desk ticket, they are forced to override the system. When the systemic guardrails themselves are obsolete or broken, evasion becomes the only logical way for employees to complete their daily jobs. Management habits create their own bottlenecks. Take the zero value add review. If teams realize the designated approver blindly rubber stamps every request without ever checking a budget or asking a question, they see the control is a facade and skip it to save time. The exact opposite is the micromanagement bottleneck. The approver stalls critical workflows by asking 50 redundant, irrelevant questions for every single request, forcing the team to route around them just to keep operations moving. But the deepest, most damaging root cause of all is cultural friction and executive override. This is the scenario where the team does not respect the authority matrix because leadership doesn't respect it. The CEO routinely walks onto the floor, instructs staff to ignore the paperwork, and tells them to process transactions on verbal authority alone. Absolutely no technical system control or software update can fix a workplace culture where the disrespect for authority flows directly from the top. Recommending more monitoring or adding new system blocks is a response that fails to address these behavioral and cultural problems. To fix DOA evasions, you need to deliver operational solutions. Recommend redesigning those outdated thresholds to match current business realities. Formalize a written policy for how operational teams should handle and document informal emergency approvals. You need to re-educate managers on their true roles as gatekeepers, and you must have the courage to address toxic executive override in your reports. As risk professionals, our mandate is clear. We must audit the underlying culture and the actual process flow, not merely checkboxes on a technical list. If this helped you rethink how you audit approvals, hit the subscribe button and join our community of risk professionals at the Agile Auditor. Until next time, stay vigilant.